Ladies and gentlemen, podcasting since 2005. You're listening to Gamertag Radio with your host, podcaster Hall of Famer Danny Pena, the always opinionated Paris Lilly, and from outside of the norm, Peter Toledo. This is Gamertag Radio.
All right, so continues E3 2019. And Pete, this is a podcast exclusive we're about to mention right now. Podcast exclusive. Super last minute. We were not expecting this at all.
Yep.
I get a text from Michael Pachter. Originally, we were going to interview Michael Pachter for the podcast. We usually do that every single year. But he was like, hey, I have a meeting. 9 o'clock. It's going to be just a few minutes. Then we'll meet up. I'm like, all right. So he asked me, hey, you would like to watch and check out Intellivision Amico? I said, sure. I mean, I don't have no appointments, but I'll show up. And now we know, I know Tommy years ago. He was on a podcast. I think it was episode 14. He was promoting Video Games Live. And I bumped into him during the Webbush party. Mm-hmm. So we talked for a little bit. I'm like, all right. Didn't mention anything about the console at all. So we went to, I don't know, we'll call it like a meeting room, I think.
It was a meeting room.
Meeting room. So it's Pete, Tommy Tallarico, the whole Intellivision's team, and Michael Pachter and I. We were sitting down, and Tommy took over. I asked, hey, is it okay if I could record? They're like, yep. Press record. So here is the audio. There was some parts I have to take out. I can't say, more like embargo stuff. So I'm going to save those for like a future episode. But Tommy did a crazy presentation. And you could tell, Pete, that he was very passionate about just talking about the product. Because he even mentioned that was one of his favorite consoles back in the days when he was a kid. So bringing this back, but as a 2019, 2020 console, reimagine Intellivision games or whatever they're planning to do in the future, this is like a perfect thing. Right. It was really cool.
And like Paris always jokes with like the Vectrex and like the Atari. Yes, yeah. My first console was the Intellivision and the Intellivision 2. Cool. That rotary disc pad was my first introduction to gaming, and that that eventually made way towards getting an Odyssey. Eventually going and getting, an Atari 2600, then a 7200, et cetera. Mm-hmm. And, that. So seeing what Tommy and the gang had in store was very, very nostalgic for me.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, I mean, kudos. And it goes to show, I mean, he talks about it too in the meeting, was how whenever Tommy gets an idea, he flies with it, regardless of what people will tell him. Because people will always, for the most part, most people, not that they want to see you fail, but since they're hesitant and they don't want to take that leap, a lot of times their hopes and dreams don't go forward. And with Tommy, you've seen in the past, I mean, we saw it with his TV show, we saw it with Video Games Live, and every other venture that he's jumped into, he succeeded.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It was very risky.
Through sheer will and determination, he's always gone and done it. Right. Yeah. So, I mean, it's kind of hard to tell him that it's not gonna happen, because his track record of success with projects that seem more or less difficult or near impossible to jump off with end up being a success. Yeah. So his, kudos to him. Thanks to the entire Intellivision team, and shout out to Michael Pachter for making it happen.
I feel comfortable. Like, I feel like
it was honestly like a video game. It was just like video gamers. Even going through all the Intellivision suits. Because there was a bunch of people in suits.
Dude, there was people that they're legends that we've
people
never
in the industry.
Heard of. Yeah, like legends from behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, it was an amazing opportunity. It was amazing being in there and
you're gonna hear this.
Just having that conversation. Just it was literally a bunch of gamers regardless of the walk of life.
Yeah.
Right. Regardless of your status or your professional, your level of in business, we were all at some point in time gamers, and it was a great conversation.
It was
and
good.
I hope you guys enjoyed.
The thing that I like, we asked questions. Michael Pachter asked questions, and they were like, "Yeah, you could record this." So it was really, really cool that they gave us the opportunity. So shout out to Intellivision for doing that. So we're gonna play the audio. This, honestly, this has to be one of the highlights for me at E3 because we were surrounded by legends, Pete. Surrounded by legends.
Podcast exclusive.
Yeah, so enjoy this and let us know what you think. Hit us up on Discord, Twitter, or send us an email, fanboy@gamertagradio.com. So enjoy the audio.
You're listening to Gamertag Radio.
This is a Gamertag Radio exclusive.
You were one of my first meetings I had to get your opinion on the whole thing. Yeah, and we went to lunch, and it was just a dream, and here we are, less than a year.
That's awesome.
And
that really looks good.
Thank you, appreciate it. And the cool thing is, like, these are the boxes. This isn't running off laptops. This isn't some. We did all the hardware in-house, all the engineering, all the firmware. We literally assembled the best team, the finest team of engineers that we could. Not only people that have 20, 30 years of experience building hardware for Xbox and PlayStation, but our lead engineer worked at NASA for 10 years, and he worked on the Mars rover project. Our other guy was in the military. He worked on the Black Hawk helicopter project. That was his last project. So we have a team of in-house people that are unbelievable.
And your CEO drives a Ferrari, hence that one.
Yeah, well, guilty. And so, yeah. So
and the carbon fiber. It's like, it looks exactly like his car. I'm like,
and so
I have seen that color scheme.
Yeah, right, somewhere. I don't know where. And so that's the thing. Just on our core executive team, many of the people are in the room here today. We have 600 years of video game experience. So from the David Perrys and Jason Enos was the producer of all the Metal Gear Solid games, Dance Dance Revolution, Silent Hill, Castlevania. He came in as a teenager over 30 years ago. Phil Adam, he's the guy who founded Spectrum Holobyte, and he did the first BioWare deal. He did Silicon and Synapse, helped turn them into Blizzard. He was the senior. Universal. He did the Crash Bandicoot deal with Naughty Dog selling Universal. That was Phil, and he was the VP of Interplay for 15 years before becoming president after Fargo left, and he helped take them public. So, VP of our biz dev and sales, VP of production. Hans Episch, really interesting guy. Me and Hans met 27 years ago when he interviewed me for Sega Magazine, which was part of Computech Media. You guys, I'm sure, are aware, Germany is like the third or fourth biggest market in the world for video games. It goes US, China, and then typically Germany and then Japan. Sometimes Japan and Germany switch back and forth. Hans, known almost 30 years, he was the CEO of Computech Media. Computech is like the biggest magazine, biggest website. It's like Future Publishing and IGN combined, all throughout the third biggest market in the world. Hans is a CEO for 12 years of Computech. So he was at Computech for 30 years, and we just did a press release last week that he's left Computech Media after 30 years, and he's the president of Intellivision in Europe. We got a Nuremberg office. We did a deal with the Bavarian government. And they're paying for 75% of all of our game development that happens in Germany. So we have 22 playable games here. 7 of them come from Germany. So behind you, you'll see 22 playable games in all sorts of different categories. So the entire thing about our that we really need to stress to people, because there's a little confusion in the market thinking that, it's Intellivision, so it must be a retro machine. It must be a retro box, right? Like the Turbo Graphics, the Genesis Mini, all this stuff, because people will assume that right away. Well, it's Intellivision, but it's Intellivision Amico. Amico is the Italian word for friend. And the deal is that our 4 company pillars are simple, affordable, family, and fun. Now, 3 of those 4 pillars are not being focused on in the home consoles right now. They're certainly not simple, they're certainly not affordable, and they're certainly not family-oriented, right? There's an article that just came out today, the top of Game Industry Biz, and it said only 21% of all the video games shown at E3 were non-violent. Think about it. Walk around. Look what you're seeing on the walls. Look what you're seeing. The Intellivision Amico, our friend Amico, we don't allow mature-rated or even teen-rated games on our system. As you know, over 80% of video games in the past are always rated E for everyone or E plus 10. That's what we're doing. We don't allow that stuff on our system, right? And so that's the thing, though, is that we're getting back to the core of gaming. When I was growing up, video games, and my very first machine was an Intellivision. It's the great opening shot that we have in our pitch deck is me, 10 years old, playing my Intellivision. And gaming was so much different back then. The word game itself is an ancient, thousands of years old. People created a game for what reason? For people to get together socially and compete with one another and have fun with one another. Gaming, video game in the 21st century, multiplayer gaming means a kid in a dark room with his headphones on, tuning out the world. VR, even worse, right? Mobile, $140 billion industry, video games last year. 55% of that is mobile gaming. And what is mobile gaming? This. It's solitary. It's solitary. So all the casual games that appear in the world are this. People aren't playing games together, right? You know that the board game industry over the last 5 years, 40% increase year after year. The board game industry is absolutely exploding. It's the #1 segment on Kickstarter now. Why is that? Because people can't come together and play video games anymore like they used to. I want to ask you guys a question. I want you to go back in your whole life, right, and think about the best, greatest video game moments you've ever had. If you think about it, I guarantee it was when you were playing with other friends, right? Maybe it was Bomberman, maybe it was GoldenEye on the N64, Street Fighter, Mario Kart. How about you? What was your favorite?
Honestly, and it's gonna sound cliche, but my memory has always been Pickaxe Pete on the original Intellivision.
There you go. Okay, Intellivision. And you were playing with friends.
My cousin.
You were playing with your cousin. How about you?
NBA Jam or like a Street Fighter.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was a lot of us to compete.
And a lot of us together, right?
Yep.
Pong tournaments in '72. What do you got?
I did play that too. It's all single player, so no.
Right.
Zelda Ocarina of Time, which took me 2 months.
Right. Yeah, that's a good one.
I was fist bumping, but it was all by myself.
You were all by yourself.
Don't pick on his age; he's younger than you.
Yeah. So,
I swear to God, the first video game I ever played was with my dad.
With your dad
in a bar.
Right.
He had to show me a Pong machine.
It was Pong.
In a bar, the tabletop Pong.
Yeah.
First time I ever played a game.
Yeah.
And he dragged me down to this bar that they serve food. He goes, "You've got to see this." We went through, 20 quarters playing Pong.
It's a connection, though. That connection.
So I remember playing with it's the only game I ever played with my dad. But
right.
I really remember that.
And so that's a big memory, right? And so that's the idea is that the Intellivision, that's what we're bringing forward. We're going back to the roots of gaming, right? When the internet happened in the late 90s, gaming changed forever, Multiplayer meant online in a dark room with somebody. Casual games means this now, right? And so what did Nintendo do that was amazing? 13 years ago, they proved to the world, they've already proved my concept, is that people who don't typically buy video game consoles will purchase one if it's simple and easy and fun. It was the 3rd biggest selling video game system of all time, 102 million units sold. Now here's what maybe, not a lot of people might know. Nintendo's a great company. They're a $40 billion company because they know their audience. They know their audience better than any other video game company out there. Their audience is millennials who grew up on Pokemon and Zelda and Mario, and that's their audience, right? As you know, when the Wii came out, they were just trying to pivot away from Sony and Microsoft at the time, right? They wanted to do something different. Nintendo always brags that, look, we want to innovate and we never look back. And they've done that. Sometimes they stumble, but sometimes they create amazing things, right? So when the Wii came out, they caught lightning in a bottle. They weren't planning on having nursing homes purchase it, and my mom bought one, and all these people, right? That wasn't their goal, but it happened, right? But what did they do? They went right back to their wheelhouse. Nintendo isn't focused on the casual market. That's why it took them so long to get into mobile, right? And they're not trying to, get in a lot of people. We're trying to bring in everyone. But, like I said, Nintendo's a great company. Mario is the only other short Italian in the video game industry, so I got to love him. But that's the thing, is that over 30% of the people who purchased a Wii never bought another game for it, right? And so that's what we're doing, is we're picking up where the Wii left off 13 years ago. Can you believe that was 13 years ago? Right? And even when Nintendo captured this amazing market, you see what happens when, what they did is they're like, okay, well, we did that. We're great. We knocked it out of the park. Now we're going to innovate the next thing. And it was the Wii U. It was literally the exact opposite. The Wii brought people together. The Wii U was a single-player device. You wanted a second controller. It was $179. Went in a different direction. Now with the Switch, they're taking mobile. Again, they're great innovators. The Switch is amazing. But what I see is this huge gaping hole in the industry, is that I walk around the halls here and I see all the violence, and there's not a single game an average casual player would be interested in playing here. You give my dad a PlayStation 4 controller, he starts to have a panic attack. My dad can't even turn a PlayStation 4 on. They hid the button. I got news for you. First 10 minutes I opened it, I had no idea. I've been playing games.
I had to pull the manual out.
Are you kidding me?
I know. I couldn't believe it.
This is how difficult video games have become. They literally are hiding the on button so you can't turn it on.
I always eject the disc.
On accident. It's the one on the left. Go to the left. Go to the left. It's the one on. I know. I always hit the one on the right. It's just natural that you want to go to the right for some reason. So this is my point. Like, gaming has become so crazy now. There's 200 million gamers in the world. That's about the number. 200 million gamers, hardcore gamers. You know how many people play this every day? 3 billion. And the 3 billion people, I want to tell you the 4 things that are wrong with this in regards to gaming. 4 things. 1, there's zero curation. There's 1,000 new apps that come out a week. So there's zero curation. It's bad for the developers. It's bad for the people trying to find something, 2, just to let you know, all of our content is curated. This is not an open system. There's this weird thing in the video game industry where quantity is supposed to be better than quality now. You know what I mean? The Switch, Nintendo's, we want 1,000 new games a year on the Switch. Look what happened to Steam. Look what's happening in mobile. Atari, with their new machine, they're bragging that, well, we're going to have thousands of games, and Intellivision, isn't going to have that many. So what? Would you rather have 50 great games or 1,000 mediocre ones?
Oh, great.
Right?
Oh, great.
I'd rather have 3 great games than 1,000 mediocre ones. You know what I mean? So this industry whole thing about quantity over quality.
So I need to hear your business model on games, because as a consumer,
yeah,
I would like 3. He would like 3. He would like 3, but they might not be the same 3.
That's right.
And so you've got to get
Love it.
So there's a critical mass where, and that's the Netflix model that I don't watch
action films or comedies.
Girl shit.
That's right.
My daughters do.
It's a great. So
they have something for everybody.
Yes.
Which is where the 1,000 game concept.
And this is where we dominate.
I don't know the answer. If it is 50, great.
And this is the thing, Michael. This is why I wanted you in here, because you could really help us. I'm the underdog. I'm like Rocky Balboa up in this, right? I mean, I am the underdog, and people, everything I've ever done in my career, people thought I was crazy, right? I was the first video game composer to ever come out with a video game album. They're like, you're 1993, Capitol Records worldwide. People are like, you're crazy. Who the hell would want to listen to video game music? Me and Victor Lucas, we started a TV show in 1994. People are like, who the hell is going to want to watch a show about video games? This is 20 years before Twitch TV, right? And we were crazy then. And then I do video games live. Are you nuts? You actually think that video gamers want to go to a symphony, and you think that people that go to a symphony want to watch video games? You're crazy. We have 3 Guinness World Records for the biggest selling symphony tour ever, right? And so this is just yet another one. People roll their eyes at you. Hardware, now you're off your rocker. There's no way. And I love when David Perry gets interviewed about this. They say, yeah, but this is hardware. David Perry always says, I've known him 30 years. I wouldn't bet against him. It's my favorite line. And so it's passion, it's heart. I see the gaping hole. I think you guys would agree that it's pretty obvious. It's pretty obvious. Families aren't playing video games together anymore. And that's our core message. That's why we got Perrin and Kelly and all these folks. These are the folks who launched the Wii, the folks who launched Pokemon franchise, the Nintendo DS, right? We're taking that path. But when they had all that stuff and that stuff launched, there wasn't influencers, there wasn't Facebook, there wasn't YouTube. Think about it, right? We have such a big advantage over even what they could do back then. They're loving this. Family, friends. It is for everyone. The 3 billion people who play mobile are not being targeted in the home as a family-friendly device. And that's what we're doing.
Thanks for listening to Gamertag Radio. Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.